Carl Jung said, the world will ask, who are you? And if you do not know, the world will tell you. The world will ask you, who are you? And if you do not know, the world will tell you that you're bipolar or neurotic or histrionic, whatever that means. We live in a world that is full of labels. That if you do not know who you are, and the world is consistently asking every single day, through circumstances and people around you, who are you? And if you do not know, the world will give you a label. The world will tell you who you are or who you should be. A story is told of a young English mother who was told by her child's school that her young daughter had aggressive learning disabilities, and they were recommending that this little girl be taken to a special school for children with special needs. And the mother took this child to see a doctor, where she complained that the child fidgets a lot and she has extreme lack of focus and is now becoming a problem in school. And the doctor listened patiently, and he now told the little girl that he would like to speak to the mom privately outside the office. So he put on the radio and he went out of the office with the girl's mom. And out of the office, he asked the mom to observe this little girl, and the mom observed the little girl from the glass or whatever. And in a few minutes, the girl started maneuvering, making this unique dance move to the music that was coming out of the radio. And she was just making brilliant, intelligent moves that was so slick and beautiful. And after a while, the doctor turned to the mom and said, "Ma'am, your child is not sick. She is a dancer." Today, the late Gillian Barbara Lynn is regarded as one of the greatest ballerinas of all times. She's not just a ballerina, she's a choreographer, she's a dancer, she's a theater TV director who is known to be associated with two of the longest running shows in Broadway history. I think that's Cats and Phantom of the Opera or something like that. The world will ask who you are, and if you do not know, they will label you or your child with something that is not true. And it is always asking. It is always giving you circumstances to let you answer if you're good enough, if you're worthy. Because the world will always tell you you're not good enough, you're not man enough, you're not woman enough, you're not credit worthy, or you're three-fifths of a man, as they used to call slaves back in the day. The world will ask, who are you? And if you do not have an answer, it will tell you who you are or who you should be. We see it every single day. We live in a world that is full of labels, full of labels. And most times it asks even through circumstances. You might, for instance, look at your bank account and what you see is some aggressive looking bank balance. Maybe it's $4. And the $4, this mean looking $4 might be looking at you and telling you, who are you? Who are you? And if you're not careful, you will label yourself as poor, broke, and unlucky. Meanwhile, have you seen the universe lately? Have you seen how the universe operates? The universe runs with perfection. There has never been a day since we started taking history of the universe that the sun failed to rise and set. Everything works to perfection, to order. And you are a child of the architect of perfection. So how can you label yourself as broke, unlucky, and poor? It might be a fact that you're broke, but the truth is that you're a child of the architect of perfection. And that is why you should never let go of affirmations. Affirmations are a very powerful thing that reinforces the image of who you are in truth. And so you can look at that $4 bank balance, and instead of saying, I am broke, you reaffirm who you are as a child of the architect of perfection. And you say things like, I am a problem solver. I am a problem solver. I am wealthy. I am a problem solver. I solve people's problems. And you could keep at that. And one day you could just hear a question that you've always heard before. But today it rings different because somebody might say something that you've always heard before, like, why doesn't somebody do something about this? And you're like, wait a minute, I can do something about this and I'll charge you $3,000 for it. And be like, okay, go ahead. So don't let go of the power of affirmation. Today, people teach all manner of things, vibration and this. And I see a lot of people putting down the power of affirmation. But it says, in the beginning was the word. In the beginning was the affirmation. Even in the darkness, you have to say, let there be light. So we live in a world of labels, and it is getting more aggressive every single day. Every single day. That if you're not careful, you find yourself sticking labels all around yourself, your spouse, your children, your country. And just like, let me give you an instance. Um, I grew up in West Africa, and most of my friends now live in the West. I live in Canada. Some of my friends live in the UK and the US, etc. And I was hanging out with this friend of mine who we grew up together. So we've seen the ugly and everything going back to uh, West Africa, Nigeria, and he was living in the U.S. He lives in the U.S. now. So we got together one time and we were having drinks. And when you're in a bar, they serve you peanuts. And so when the bartender, served out drinks with peanuts, my friend went, "Oh, I'm allergic to peanuts." And you could see the irritation arise from me. The Nigerian in me just kicked in, like, what is this? Like, have you forgotten where we're coming from? Have you forgotten how back then we could eat raw onions just to survive? Where is this coming from? And he thought about it after a while, and then he replied and, like, he said, "My brother, I don't even know what's wrong with me." And I said, "Eat the damn peanuts," which he did. And I'm not saying that there are not people that are allergic to things. That's true. But what I'm trying to say is that if you're not careful, you'll find yourself conforming to labels. And Earl Nightingale said something. He said the opposite of courage is not cowardice, it's conformity. So you need to be courageous to reject these labels. There are labels out there for free, for free. They will label you, they'll label your children, they'll label your business, they'll label everything. So don't conform to labels. Reject it, but don't reject it by being quiet. Use the power of affirmations. Affirm your identity. You're a child of the architect of perfection. So you are not designed to fail. We have this thing I call the gospel according to failure, where people say, go out there and fail, fail, fail forward, fail, fail. Some people even say things that, like, um, uh, courage is going from failure to failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. And I'm wondering, bro, have you failed before? Do you know how failure feels terrible because it's not part of your DNA? Now, I'm not saying that you won't fail. It's sadly, it's a part of life. You make mistakes, but there also comes a level where you soar. There comes a level where you are always flying. You're learning new things, but your trajectory is upward. So people go out there and say you need to fail. If you're not failing, you're not making pro. Maybe what they need to say is trying, keep going. But they keep saying fail and fail and fail and fail and fail. But the scripture says that the righteous, which is you, are like a tree planted by the riverside, which produces fruit in its season, and whatsoever he or she does prospers. Why is that? Because you are designed with the DNA of infinite intelligence, you were never designed originally to fail. That's just the truth. So we accept these labels that it's okay to make mistakes, but don't accept that you are a failure. Don't accept that label. Don't accept it for yourself. Don't accept it for your family. Don't accept it for your city. Don't accept it for your country. The world will ask, who are you? And if you do not know, the world will tell you. It shows itself in circumstances so numerous to mention. Sometimes you'd have people in your office, your colleagues, who just want to undermine your authority, undermine who you are. And for the simplest things that could be sorted with a phone call, they'll send you an email and copy they'll copy the board, they'll copy your directors, they'll copy your direct supervisor, they'll copy aliens from Mars, just to trip you and ask, who are you? To get you off balance, to react out of fear. But you're bold as a lion. Never underestimate the power of noted. It works wonders. When people are trying to trip you in the office or try to set you up and send all these long, damn, stinker emails, you say, Dear Reginald, this is noted. Regards. It pisses them off. But that is the world asking, who are you? And you're telling your original colleague that, not today, Satan, not today, devil, because I know who I am. I am a child of God. I am a daughter of the Most High. I am an extension. Matter of fact, I am infinite intelligence, not an extension. You are. So it's very, very, very important. I remember years ago when my first child she was about 6, 5, 6, and we're just starting out in life. And so we were living in a not nice neighborhood. So I took my wife and my little girl to a very beautiful neighborhood where we went to window shop. And strangely, it made such a good impression on my little one. She was just 5 or 6, and it made such an impression on her. And let me just say this, by the way, anytime you walk into somewhere that is so beautiful, so pristine, so luxurious, something in you wakes up. It's like you just come alive. That is who you are. And that is why you go to somewhere that is stinky, dirty, and something in you goes like, ugh, because that is foreign to your nature. You sit in the back of a phantom Rolls Royce and something in you just comes alive. That is who you are. So this neighborhood definitely made impression on my young one. And each day I would take her to school, would pass um, a certain area, which wasn't where the neighborhood that I took her to, but she would always ask, "Daddy, is this our new neighborhood?" And of course, she was just young. She didn't know. She doesn't know. She didn't have a bearing of where this location was from the other location. But I noticed that each day she would ask, Daddy, is this our new neighborhood? Daddy, is this our new neighborhood? And sometimes I was like, for the love of God, it is not. But one day she asked the same question again and said, Daddy, is this our new neighborhood? And at that moment, I realized that the world was asking me who I am. Do I deserve to be in this place? Is this where you see yourself? And at that moment, I realized that, oh, I've been given the wrong answer. And I said, yes, baby, that is our place. That is our neighborhood. That is where we're going to live. Long story short, we didn't live there. We lived somewhere better. But I had to retune my identity to reject the label, because each time she asked, Daddy, is this our new neighborhood? I was looking at my finances. I was looking at I was looking at the combined finances of my spouse and I knew that at that point we couldn't afford it. So I was reacting in anger. This child, why do you keep asking me this when I should have embraced who I was? And the moment I rewired my imagination, boom, like that, in a few months, we moved to a very beautiful neighborhood. So I just want to encourage you that actively, aggressively Reject the labels. Actively and aggressively reject the labels. And how do you reject it? By affirming. By affirming who you are, by affirming your identity, by affirming who you know that you are. Just like when you walk into a beautiful palace, something you just wakes up. You just see your language changes, your pose changes, the way you walk changes because the environment is a reflection of where you're coming from. Nobody is used to poverty. Nobody is created to be poor. Nobody is created to be sick or ill or depressed or frustrated. Nobody. And that is why when we are faced with something so beautiful, we come alive because it's a reflection of where we're coming from and a reflection of our DNA. So reject the labels by reaffirming with affirmations who you are. I'm telling you the truth. People are so quick to give our children labels. It is scary. You just met a child. Within 3 hours, you give a label. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't cases where, yeah, they are right. But even if they are right, you their story the world is filled with stories of people who have overcome the craziest challenges, the craziest limitations. I saw this speaker, very powerful speaker, very funny guy. He had no arms and legs too, and I think he's a comedian too. No, he's a doctor now, I believe. And he said that when I was born, all the doctors told me that I wouldn't be alive. He said today, all those doctors are dead except me. I think he's a comedian or a doctor or something, but he's definitely a speaker. So reject the labels. Don't accept it. Don't accept it. It is always asking you every single day. The moment you wake up, life asks, who are you? The moment your eyes are open, circumstances begin to ask, who are you? Who are you? And your job is to be blind to the circumstances and wake up to who you are and affirm it. You have to keep affirming it. Affirmations are so powerful. Affirmations are so powerful. It goes out and creates circumstances that will walk backwards to help you become that person that you have made the affirmations about. Affirmations is the number one way to change your identity or retune your identity. It's worked for me so many times. The power of affirmations. There's so much labels to go. Each person can have 100 labels if you're not careful. So affirm who you are. Affirm who you are. You are power, you are grace, you are brilliance, you're beautiful. You are made for more. No one has power over you. No, no one has power over you. In Sunday school, they taught us this lie that resist the devil and he'll flee. That's a lie because whatever you resist persists. If I say, do not look at the mic on my in my shirt, you know, immediately you persist. Have you noticed that no matter how much you're feeling, if you change your focus, you change how you feel? Make sure that you are blind to circumstances. Make sure that the labels don't stick to you. Make sure that you don't try resisting the labels. What you do is make affirmations for who you are, because if you try to resist the labels, all you will see is proof of the label. Have you ever had a headache and went and Googled it? I remember what was troubling me. Oh yes, I think I was recording, so I kept clearing my throat. Kept going, and it bothered me. I'm like, why am I doing this? And I just went on Google, and the what I saw in the search results, I switched the damn thing off. There's nothing wrong with me. I just had a cold. So if you have symptoms, don't Google them, because sometimes the labels will get you sick. So that's all I wanted to say to you today. Reject the labels. You're more than enough. You're worthy. You're worthy. You are great. You are powerful. You're brilliant. You're a child of the Most High God. You're not just a child of the Most High God. You are God. Ye are gods. You have the power to change whatsoever circumstance that you are in. Take it from me. Take it from me, from someone who didn't understand what 2 square meals was. I didn't. I listen. Things were so bad growing up in West Africa that one of my dreams as a child was to have milk. In my fantasy as a child, my biggest fantasy was when I moved to my house, when I became someone, I would have milk in my fridge. Real talk. So I'm proof that affirmations work. I'm living proof that affirmations work. Forget what they say. We live in a generation that is weak because we are too quick to accept labels. We are too quick to accept what the experts say. So you're more than enough. You're powerful. You're brilliant. You're beautiful. You're worthy. You're worth it. You're worth it. No matter what your credit score is, you can be wealthy if you first accept it. They say things are created 2 times, first in the mind and then in the physical. First, you have to change your identity, then the physical will manifest. I remembered when I started earning money as a business person, all I needed to do, I started changing my identity, and I was reading books. The first book, self-help book I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2001, but I started seeing this thing called cash flow, this thing called entrepreneurship, this thing called investment, this thing called the cash flow quadrant, as Rob Kiyosaki said. And one day, while I was working in a low paying job, if I tell you how much I was earning in dollar figure, but one day I was I used to freestyle, or what's it called, let's just say freestyle. I used to, my friend was on the radio, and he used to invite me to just come over on radio and just hang out with him, and just pass time. And each time at the end of the radio session, would go out to the lobby and find all manner of artists coming and asking, then it was CDs in early 2000, and they'll be asking, what are the radio stations that they accept outside this radio stations that we can distribute our singles to. And I've heard that question so many times. But one day, because I had reaffirmed my identity as a problem solver, someone asked, how many radio stations are there in the city of Lagos? And can you give me the addresses? And just like that, I said, no, I'll do it for you. And like that, a company was born. I began distributing music for record labels all over the country, hundreds of thousands of CDs. But it came from reaffirmation, reaffirmation, reaffirming who you are, reaffirming who you are, reaffirming who you are, rejecting the labels that you are somebody, that you can be somebody. And it is true, you are somebody, you can be somebody, because you already are. So reject the labels. Reject the labels. They say you're not good enough. Say, I am good enough. I am a problem solver. Keep saying that I am a problem solver. I solve problems for people, and people pay me to solve problems. And one day you just might hear a question that you've heard for the past 5 years, but this time the problem solver in you wakes up and solves the damn problem and gets paid. And you do it again and again and again and again.